Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satgurum Pranatosmyaham. So we're speaking of the Anandamaya Kosha. The Anandamaya means it is a happiness layer. And we've seen that so far this happiness layer is really what moves the world, makes the world go round. It really is. It's the source of all joy, all motivation, all wanting to live, to aspire for bigger and better. It is what every practice is supposed to bring you. It's what everyone in all backgrounds, in all cultures aspires for. So the whole world is moved by one single kosha, the Anandamaya. That's it. It's as simple as that. If you can understand this, you can understand all human behavior and all motivations and all purpose of living, really. If there was no Anandamaya, there will be no purpose to live. And this Anandamaya, it says now into the verse, it says, this Anandamaya is a modification born of Tama Guna. Now, this is interesting. Or avidya. Now you would think that, it's Sattva Guna, a little bit kind of reflective. It's got a reflective property. But you have to remember that everything is of Prakriti. Anandamaya is not any different. So Anandamaya Kosha is made of three gunas, made of Prakriti. And so when it says it's born of tamas, it wants to remind you this happiness that you experience, it is still contaminated by the three gunas. So don't think it's some final happiness of Brahman. It's not. It's governed by gunas, and therefore mistake it not as something that's to be pursued as the end of life. You just see, if everything is made of three gunas, even a wall, that's what happiness is made of. The same stuff that makes up the wall. So now we're all after, nobody wants this wall, right? But we want happiness. And yet it's still made of the same Prakriti. So now when you start to look at happiness like this, you're like, this is just one more, material that's there to manifest in the form of happiness, but it's not really the self. And so when you look at or start to see things like this, you relax. You're like, oh, this happiness is just like a very fine version of Prakriti. And I don't have to pursue it. It's nice to have it, but I don't have to pursue it. Otherwise, go and pursue a wall. What's the difference? So the first, when it says Anandamaya is a modification born of tamas, it's reminding you it is a modification just like anything else. The ugliest things that you consider are modifications of Prakriti. There's no ugly or beautiful, it's just whatever meaning you give it. The things that you do not fancy are made of Prakriti. The things that you fancy are made of Prakriti. The things that you do not fancy are not self. The things that we fancy are not self. And one of the most tempting things that is not self from all other things is Ananda Maya. As I said, nobody wants a wall. It's too solid. I don't want non-self, not self wall. I want not self Ananda. But you still want not self. That's the first meaning when it says it's born of tamas. Now the second meaning is, see, it requires some thinking about it. When is Anandamaya Kosha fully alive? Like when is it like fully, shining in all its glory? Deep sleep, right? Deep sleep. Okay? So during deep sleep, during deep sleep, I have total tamas, total ignorance of all of the other four koshas. So Anandamaya is born of tamas. It's born of ignorance of all of the other four koshas. In other words, it's born during deep sleep. The other way you can interpret this is you can say, this is a third way, is you say, Anandamaya is born of tamas. You can say that to any kosha. You can say identification with Anandamaya is born of ignorance or tamas. Identification with Vijnanamaya is born of tamas or ignorance. Identification with Manomaya is born of tamas or ignorance. So, three ways to look at this. Due to ignorance of my true nature, that I am free of Anandamaya Kosha, of this happiness that everyone looks for. Due to ignorance of that, thinking that I am as good as this happiness. How is Anandamaya born? It's born from ignorance of my true nature. That's how you experience happiness. Because I want happiness. I went 2,000 miles across the globe to get a travel package. Why? Because what was waiting for me on the other side? We call it a travel package, but what was really waiting on the other side? Access to Anandamaya Kosha. Because you thought, according to your values, if I merge with that object 2,000 miles away, what's going to happen to the seeker? He or she is going to collapse, and I'm going to get a lick of Anandamaya Kosha. So the whole world is moved by this kosha alone. And this kosha presents itself to you in three modes. And they are really just three intensities or three degrees of experiential happiness. And they go from smallest to biggest. They go Priya, Moda, Pramoda. So what is Priya? They're all modifications. Remember, they're all modifications of this Anandamaya. So Priya is when you see something far away and it's something you want. Notice how when it's coming, you feel a little bit of that joy. Like it's coming. Yeah, a little bit of joy. But then when it's very near you, what happens then? You know, when that special person of yours is like very near, they're about to hug you, your joy is much higher, isn't it? Now, what happens when you are at one, right? Not that you're at one with them, but when you hug them, what happens then? Maximum enjoyment. Priya, a little bit. Moda, slightly somewhat higher. Pramoda, right? You are experiencing that object. That's called making love. That's why people like to make love. Because it induces the highest level of Anandamaya Kosha. It's simple as that. Now, this Ananda, right, from Anandamaya Kosha, it is born and it is destroyed. Because it depends on what object you contact, right? You contact an object that you like, then it's going to get born. When that object that you like goes away, then it's going to end. So it's subject, again, you see, one of those three rules. If it depends upon something, depends upon an object, it is not the self. So it depends upon the object of your desire to manifest. Anything that depends upon something else is not the self. If that object that you desire is not there, the Anandamaya's situational happiness will not arise. It entirely depends upon the situation and depends upon degrees or the lovability factor, let's call it that, the lovability factor or the desirability factor of that object. That will change what kind of Anandamaya you get to, enjoy in that moment. And then the verse continues and it says, this Anandamaya Kosha, it shines at the time of experiencing punyam. So whenever something happens to you pleasing, anytime you've ever done something pleasing, donated money, or did something good for someone, or helped out someone, or said the right thing, or answered a question you felt good about yourself, anytime you ever answered a question or did something that you gained that merit, that was access to Anandamaya Kosha. It's incredible. It's kind of like this kosha that's just there waiting to reward you, keeps you going. Like, yeah, okay, let me just keep you in this loop. Let me keep you going, Here's one more time. And you're like, oh, I love this feeling. Let me just go. You're like a worker bee, totally susceptible to this Anandamaya Kosha, feeding you a little kind of a drug-like, substance of happiness. And I'm thinking, due to lack of this knowledge, I'm thinking, I'm such a nice human being, and dopamine keeps on flowing. You see, this dopamine is a physical manifestation of this Anandamaya Kosha. On the physical level, the doctors see dopamine release. But at the subtle level, at the subtle body level, what's happening is it goes through a modification of priya, moda, pramoda. And that manifests in the brain as dopamine. Of course, you can now trace this why drugs are so popular, because it forces contact with this Anandamaya Kosha. And everyone wants this. So it says, when punyam in your life comes, then a dharmic act, something that is good or gracious, what happens? It activates the Anandamaya Kosha. And then continues without effort. Without effort. Your hamkara takes the mode of priya, moda, pramoda. Which is why you say, ahamkara, am so happy. Look at that. Do you need any effort to feel happy? No. You see how automatic it is, how it's just made, just there. Okay, you want to do something good, says Ishvara. Okay, fine. I'm going to give you a little drop feed of Anandamaya Kosha. And you're just like a little dog, just chasing after it. It's kind of like that sort of mechanical, if you think about it for a moment. Don't want to add, I don't want to strip out devotion but I want to, for this moment, show you there's a certain mechanics to how things work. Later on, you bring devotion and you don't have to think, I'm just a robot acting like that. So there's a time for devotion too. But for now, we have to be very clear how this mechanism of happiness that we all love works. It's just mechanics. So now the uniqueness of Vivekachudamani text is it says two things. It says that the kind of Anandamaya, the intensity of your Ananda that you feel on a daily basis is due to your past causes. And the quality of your Vijnanamaya, that means how well it thinks, how well it inquires, is due to past causes. So now if you say, I'm not very much in touch with my Anandamaya Kosha on a daily basis. Why is that? Because of lack of punyam. That means I have not done things, I have not performed actions that have led me to a conducive life to enjoy. It's simple as that. It's not a science, it's not pseudo. So now it becomes a kosha. Remember, it's not an actual cover. It only becomes a cover when you say, you give this a try. When does it become a cover? Huh?
When you identify with it, when you get addicted to it.
Yeah, but give me some real life examples. How do we identify? What do we say? How do we demonstrate that we are identified with this Anandamaya Kosh? Only just one more time. Missing people, yeah? Because give you access to that. That's the goal of life, to be happy. Such a popular topic today. Almost the essence of every book, basically, the self-help book, is basically here's how to be happy. Here's how to contact your Anandamaya Kosha. Then what? Eat well, exercise, sleep well. Here's some, create that's witnessing, present, that ahamkara, witnessing your thoughts. Go out for a holiday. Change your room, furniture in the house. Feng shui, reorganize things. Take a cruise. It's amazing. So it becomes a kosha when you say, goal of life, I just want to be happy. No, I have the right to be happy. It's so innocent, isn't it? No, I just want to be happy. I want to be happy, God. Unfortunately, or fortunately, what we're really saying is, I just want to continue identifying with Anandamaya Kosha. Because that's what everyone else is doing. And it's so natural to do that. It's so innocent. There's nothing obstructive about it, nothing dangerous about it. There's no harm. And so you say there's no harm, go and pursue it. And yet that very thing keeps you in the loop. I want to be happy. And so when someone shows you a teaching that doesn't necessarily make you happy, but it makes you think hard, sometimes you fall asleep, right? Or we do. And it's hard to keep on listening and to keep on inquiring for years and years. Then you say, this doesn't make me happy. I want someone who makes me happy. You see how logical this is? It's naturally I'm going to walk out and go to someone that makes me happy. I want someone who brings happiness out of me, because then they are healthy. They are good for me because they're bringing out happiness.
And they can't, and they have difficulty to get along with people who are not happy.
Yeah.
Because that's then difficult. Then they're no good.
Yeah. And so what Navya is saying is something very interesting. And thus, I have a hard time getting along with those who are not happy. Because something is wrong with you. You should be happy. You have the right to be happy. Go and do something and be happy. Just go out and be happy.
Like this, I don't want you around. It works sometimes.
Yeah.
But what if Vedanta makes you happy?
Yeah, that's a byproduct of understanding the larger picture. You're not taking a cruise to Vedanta or something.
You're not only happy.
It's a byproduct of recognizing how you've been fooled all this time. Now, what's more is the other mistake gets committed, is we link happiness to the object. Now it becomes a dependence. So two errors. One, I want to be happy, and two, that object makes me happy. That's where the ananda is, in that object. So what you do every day, you go to it naturally. See, let me just bring this back down to earth for a moment, and it deserves, this needs to be said. My teacher once said to me, I think I asked her, hey, so, when I look at this world through, you're just flesh and bones and the whole thing's mechanical, how do I even enjoy myself? How do we even have a relationship, nice, intimate relationship with people? And she said to me, at the transactional level, you just have to pretend that things are like this. But inside, cognitively, there's a much larger picture to all this. So let's for a moment let that sink in. Transactionally, I still see you as a human being. Not, there are probably some people that just see, flesh and bone and, right? And some people do that, they sort of try to detach from the world. But we don't do that in Vedanta. We say all that is here is Ishvara, ultimately. So now returning back to the thread, verse 58 continues. Its manifestation in the three states. Anandamaya koshasya sushuptau spurtihi utkata swapna jagarayoho ishat ashta sandarshana adina. Okay. The manifestation of the Anandamaya Kosha is fully manifest in deep sleep and only partially in the dream and waking, depending upon the sight of pleasing objects. So this is a nice summary of what we spoke about. So it says it's fully manifest in deep sleep. So we have to remember one thing. In deep sleep, whatever you want to call that happiness or bliss or peace or whatever your word is, that bliss is not equal to Brahmananda. It's a glimmer, like a little taste, because it's just one single Anandamaya Kosha. It's not the whole thing. And the question is then, why is there happiness in deep sleep? Why do you think? I know it's Anandamaya Kosha, you're fully in touch with the Anandamaya, but why else is there happiness in deep sleep?
The mind is not active.
Yeah, the mind is not active. So this means that the person, the wanter, the desirer, the one that needs and wants things and feels small, inadequate, that one is the Vijnanamaya Kosha. The conclusion about I, the opinion about I. Remember that statement at the beginning, how we said the ring's opinion about itself has no bearing on its truth. It can say, I am the metal, I am copper, but it's actually the gold. So now that opinion generator, that opinion maker, the one that has an opinion about the true self, that one is gone. And when that one is gone, it's very peaceful, because there's no limiter to say I'm not good enough anymore. All that is just this vast access to this Anandamaya Kosha, and that's very pleasing. That's why we all love to sleep. We all love to sleep for one single reason: Anandamaya Kosha, access full. If during deep sleep you did not access the Anandamaya Kosha, it would not be pleasant at all. It would just not be like a mechanical thing. Oh, I got to sleep. And you can tell that experience. How? Because when you say I want to go to sleep, what are you talking? What would you prefer? Look at this: deep sleep or dream? Naturally, sleep. Because in dream, it says the verse, during dream and waking, it's only partially manifest, and during deep sleep, it is fully manifest. It's interesting how we always go for something that is fully. We never go for what's partially. If you've got something that's fully, I will always take that over that same thing that is partial. So earlier on we said this Anandamaya has three modes: Priya, Moda, Pramoda. What determines these three modes? The mind. You understand why? Because you get full access. See, even now you have full access to the Anandamaya Kosha. But is there like any particular sort of joy right now? Yeah, because you're here, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. But I can tell you one thing, it could certainly be more, but it's not more. Why? Because even right now, it says in the dream and waking, it is partially manifest. You can't help it. Even for the wise person who's liberated, it's the same thing. That's why you're not going to find a wise person who's got a big grin on his face. You can't function like that in the real world. This is a universal statement. In the waking and dream, it's partially manifest. Now, don't confuse this Ananda for the wise person's nature. They're two different things. I'll get onto that. So that's the mistake that we make. We try to look for a big grin, a big happy man or a woman, and say, if I don't see that, they're not enlightened. You're not going to find one person with a big grin, who's blissed out. How can you function when you're blissed out? You don't want to be around anyone. And who likes being woken up from sleep? Because the Anandamaya is so pleasing, do not dare disturb that most beautiful experience. It is literally an experiential happiness. Do not disturb that, because it's the closest thing to the self. What wakes you up from sleep? Yeah, you call prarabdha karma. That means you gotta do your unfinished business. And the other one is desires. So you wake up from this beautiful, amazing place because you got desires in the world. Now it doesn't mean, see, you know how they say, see, a wise person also wakes up. What does this mean? They got two things. They got prarabdha karma and they've got desires. That's how it is. I've got desires to whatever they want to do. And then it says during dream and waking that Ananda is partially manifest in the waking. And then you take the ongoing means to try to manifest it again and again and again. Isn't this true? This is all we ever do during the waking state. We try to bring in some Ananda into our life. We always obtain, if there's a choice to bringing Ananda into your life, you will always say yes. Isn't that true? So what is something that we all want so much? That which is like the self. You might as well just say the self. You can see how the teaching points you to that which you are. You always move to that which is natural. And that which is most natural is you. And everyone's doing this. They're arguing, oh, this Advaita, they don't know what they're talking about. But they too are chasing that which is without division. Because that happiness, is there any division between you and the other in that moment of joy? Why do you think we all want to reach out and hug each other when you're very happy? Because there's no division between me and them. There's no division between, in that moment, a very short moment, between the subject and the object. There's no division between me and my little, you're not good enough. There are two things. That goes away. So there's only this. And so you reach out and you just innocently hug them. And when that Ananda goes away, division comes back in, and I'm like, stay there. It means that it's okay. If there's no bliss in your life, it doesn't mean that, it doesn't make a statement about you. It just means that your mind has conditions that are obscuring that Anandamaya Kosha. Okay, I would like to have that Anandamaya Kosha any day. Who wouldn't? But if it's not there, at least I have some fallback and I can recognize this is just a kosha. Namaha. Namaha kosha. How do you demonstrate ignorance in reference to your true nature when it comes to Anandamaya kosha? How do you demonstrate, how do we on a collective basis demonstrate ignorance verbally to each other when it comes to the Anandamaya kosha? Look at this. Yesterday, I want to tell you a story. Yesterday I was so happy. Today I'm not so happy. Oh really? Tell me about it. Whoa. Let me slow that sentence down. Yesterday I was happy. I was happy. Today I'm not happy. What does this mean? That's like the sugar cane saying, yesterday I was sweet. Today I'm not so sweet. You see the error? What's the sugar cane doing? It's turning its nature of sweetness into an experience, when in fact it needs to understand whether there's an experience of sweetness or not. My nature is always sweetness. It's a matter of knowledge, not a matter of experience. Why is it not a matter of experience? Because your mind is always going to curtail, it's going to push down your natural happiness. That's what the mind does. The sugarcane needs to understand, not that I was happy yesterday and now I'm not happy anymore. The sugarcane needs to understand my nature is happiness even now, sweetness even now, while there's no experience of sweetness. And why is there no experience of sweetness, says the sugarcane? Because my mind is curtailing it, it's cutting it down, it's cutting it short, it doesn't matter. But what matters is, I know one thing for sure, says the sugarcane. My nature, who I am, my I is nature of sweetness. It's a matter of knowing it, because that's a fact. Will the sugarcane ever experience 24/7 sweetness? No way. Because there are always obscuring, obstructing variables preventing it from experiencing that sweetness. In that same way, when a human being says, oh, yesterday I was happy, today I'm no longer happy. We say this all the time. Committing a mistake. What you're really saying is, yesterday I was the Anandamaya Kosha, today I'm not the Anandamaya Kosha. But in actuality, what I need to understand is I'm free of the Anandamaya Kosha. In fact, my nature is fullness. My nature is fullness, and that fullness manifests at the level of the mind as happiness. I'm always full, whole, and complete, irrespective of whether that is experienced or not. That's called knowledge. That's what a wise person understands, the knowledge of a jnani. To try to seek for a non-dual experience and to have a non-dual experience, you just had a dualistic experience called non-duality. Because you had a non-dual experience and then you got a dual experience. That's still two. That's why in Vedanta we don't fall for chasing experiences, because every experience comes and goes. The self is that which doesn't come and go. It is nityam, it is indivisible, it never wavers, it is always constant, ever true, ever present, in whose presence the happiness, priya, moda, pramoda are altering all day long. When priya goes away, I am. When pramoda goes away, I am. When all three levels go away and come, I am. The goal of Vedanta is not to give you a non-dual experience. The goal of Vedanta is to make you realize your truth, your nature is the non-dual truth, the non-dual reality, the one. Non-dual just means one without a second, one consciousness without a second.
It's probably the sneakiest one though that creeps in, and you're really unaware that it's there. Like body, I understand, intellect, and anamaya kosha, but this one.
Which one? Anandamaya.
Yes, yeah, is the sneakiest, because it's so easy to identify with that.
So easy, yeah.
So do you have any tips on how to remind yourself?
Basis of this discernment is just seeing it. See, the moment I mention it, you now know.
Yeah.
It's still going to be there,
Yeah.
but once you come to see through it, the teaching starts to work in the background in magical ways.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about that. Just hearing it, and it starts to grow and grow and grow, and you still enjoy happiness, but there's a certain maturity about happiness. It's like, okay, it's nice. That's why we call samatvam yoga uchyate. The wise person has an equanimous mind. Whether good things come, thank you. Whether not good things come, thank you. Because this is namaha. Summary, deep sleep, you get the full reflection of ananda, of Brahman's reflected ananda, and waking and dream, you get a partial glimpse of Brahman's reflected ananda. I did not say it's Brahman's ananda, I said Brahman's reflected ananda. Remember the firefly? Just a glimpse. It depends upon sight of pleasing objects. Again, the golden rule, anything that depends on something else is not the self. What does it depend upon? Time. It's extinguished. It comes in time by the sight of a pleasing object. The pleasing object goes away. Ananda also goes away. And also, of course, is dependent upon objects. Okay, the sight of objects, time and place. So all of these things are Anandamaya Kosha, showing it is not self. And then verse 59, it concludes, Anandamaya cannot be the self, na eva ayam anandamayaha paratma sopadikatvat prakritehe vikarat karyatva hetoho sukrita kriyayaha vikara sanghata samahitatvat. This Anandamaya can never be the Paramatma. Because of having an upadi, due to being a modification of Prakriti, on account of being a product of good deeds, and because of being born of the assemblage of modifications, that is Priya, Moda, Pramoda. Anandamaya Kosha is like a modification of the mind. They're all just modifications of the mind, of the subtle body. When there's happiness, your mind is literally taking the form of happiness. Just like I used that Play-Doh, yeah. Okay? So now what happiness looks like, we don't know, but it's got a very pleasing, mind form to it. So Ananda modifies the mind in the three modes, Priya, Moda, Pramoda. Intensity just means intensity. And the mind is a modification of Prakriti. Remember, the Prakriti is the material cause of the universe. And Prakriti is really just a modification of the final cause, consciousness. Ananda, modification of the mind. Mind, modification of Prakriti. Prakriti, modification of consciousness. So it's just consciousness in the form of this limited Ananda. And it's an upadi. We said an upadi is that which you mix yourself up with, but it's no longer an upadi when you come to know about it. That's called negating the upadi, negating the mistake. I just come to know about it. What is a wise person's relationship to happiness, to experiential happiness? What do you think? Because see, let's take a normal person. What is a normal person's relationship to happiness?
He gets elated.
Sorry?
He gets elated when he's happy.
You get elated. What other relationship do we have to happiness on a day-to-day basis? So you give it too much reality. You go through excessive amount of work to get it. Sometimes break up relationships and families and change home and file divorces and all this drama just because grass is greener, Anandamaya Kosha is greener on the other side. Yeah. So the implications are huge. Yeah, they lose their rationale, they lose their direction, all in the name of that I want my happiness, I deserve happiness. I've been sacrificing my life for 20, 30 years. I didn't get anything back. Now I just want to leave and find I want happiness, my happiness. It's just huge, the implications. And then you have, divorce and children have to go through that stuff. That's how it is. All in the name of Anandamaya Kosha. Which, of course, makes you more identify with it. So that's the relationship with Anandamaya Kosha and an unwise person. Now, what about a wise person and the experiential bliss, which is of the Anandamaya Kosha? What do you think their relationship is?
Unattached.
One person will not chase something that is permanent. Or if when it happens, it enjoys, and when it finishes, it goes on normally like...
Yeah. So in other words, what Morita said, objectivity. It passes, thank you. It's an appearance, it's a happening, it's an event. Samatvam yoga uchyate. I have equanimity towards this happiness. And it makes you so much more stronger, actually, so much more independent. Because this is just objects of opportunities for Anandamaya Kosha. Quite unreliable. Short lasting, short shelf life.
And the party ends somewhere. Take it down with it. Accept the end of it.
Yeah.
It won't stay.
It won't stay. It won't stay.
It won't stay.
Yeah. And so when you finally just keep on not repeating, but just contemplating on the reality of life. See, we don't mean to be, this is not supposed to be depressive, this information. It's supposed to be just put you with a reality check. There's always that one time in life when you confront the reality. You fall from the tree of fantasy and you fall to the ground of truth. And that fall is always hurtful, sometimes, depending on the person. So it's time to, right, at least during these 10 days, just to see how the rest of your life will play out. You will have happy moments, and you will have all sorts of moments, but in this case, those happy moments, they too are there to make you go through life. But remember, they're not something to be, cheerful about, and, oh, I'm not getting enough happiness in my life. I want more happiness. You see, if I did that, for example, I would be programming all day long. If you did that all day, you'd probably, you'd not be Vedanta. You're probably doing something else, because we all have something that gives us that Anandamaya Kosha access. So when you understand this, the irony is you're much more available to the world. You're much more available to do what needs to be done, and less susceptible to these pleasures that are offered left and right. So it gives you a lot of strength in yourself.
And also all my friends, they complain how boring I get.
Yeah.
All the party girlfriends are like, what's wrong with you?
Give me some Anandamaya Kosha.
Chasing the happiness, you're much happier. You're much
Yes,
happier.
yes.
You're much happier. Super, super, super. That's so true. That's so true.
It doesn't depend on anything.
Yeah.
And life is much easier.
Yes.
Life is so much easier. Yeah. That's very good.
It's very small things. Happiness can be
Yeah.
very small.
Yeah.
You can meet somebody at the bakery, you buy a bread, make a joke, and it's happiness.
And you're able to be so much happier from the small things now. So it's a product of good deeds. It eventually exhausts based on the situational happiness. And it's an assemblage of priyamoda, pramoda. In other words, your mind, introduces some rajaguna, some ignorance, some shakiness, and that takes away that bliss. So that's how quickly, that's how brittle, that's how fragile that bliss is. Just one single thought of I want more, instantly, even though you asked it, you just rippled your mind, and now it's gone. So to depend upon something that's so fragile, that's going to be a life of disappointment. That's the irony of it.
It's also, I want it different.
I want it to be different. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a natural inclination that we have. And in verse 60, the witness survives this negation. So we're now closing this inquiry. So we have now negated all layers. Verse 60, Panchanam api koshanam nishedhe yuktitaha shrutehe tat nisheda avadhihi sakshi bodha rupaha avashishyate. Even when the negation of the five koshas is done by logical inquiry based on this shruti that we have done, the sakshi, that is the witness, in the form of knowledge, remains as the culmination of their negation. Remains. That's the key word. So, what have we done so far? We have investigated 5 places, 5 layers where we commit a mistake. When we commit a mistake, what does that mean? It becomes a cover when we place our cells into one of these 5. That's when it's a mistake, when it becomes a kosha. And this is important because your mind, as I said today, will continue to seek out for some things that are not within these 5 koshas. It will try to find something, and it may then say, this is the real self. So if that happens, remember the golden rule, anything that changes is perceived or experienced and depends on time, space, and other objects. This negation, says the verse, is in a form of knowledge. What does this mean? It's not in a form of physical separation. We didn't pull out the prana out of our bodies. But what do? We undertook a knowledge inquiry. We undertook an inquiry based on knowledge. Here's what prana maya is. Here's what mano maya is. That's called knowledge. So now, having done this, they lose their hold on you. When they lose their hold on you, now you just don't have to do anything. You just let this teaching now seep in slowly through the months, through the years. It starts to grow on you. That's how Vedanta works. Sometimes we think, oh, now what do I do with this? What do I do with this? Sometimes just trust the process. Listen to it with sincerity, and it works on you in the background. And within 5 years, see, just listening to this so far, you have significantly altered your timeline. Can't go back anymore. That's how it is. So this is the power of Vedantic teaching. And then it continues, it says, what remains after negation is the non-negatable witness. So this non-negatable witness, we tend to mistake for something that's deeply hidden, in one of these koshas. So we try to look for it in the Anandamaya, in the Vijnanamaya, in the Manomaya, in the Pranamaya. We try to look for it. You will not find it anywhere. It is that which pervades all koshas. It is that which is known to you as an ever-present, ever-existing, self-effulgent presence that cannot ever leave you because it is you. In the presence of it, all of these other koshas and their conditions become evident. Is your pain of your body evident? Yes. Why? Because I am there. Is an emotion evident? Yes. Why? Because I am there. Is happiness evident? Why? Because I am there. So there's nothing that this kosha or these koshas can present to displace you. They can't displace the aluktadrik. So we have conducted anatma. We have gone partially through atma. The next section, starting tomorrow, will be details into the self. Now we will go into Sat Chit Ananda, and Maya, and creation, and Satya Mithya, and resolving everything into awareness, and so on. That starts tomorrow. Purnamadav, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnam eva avashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.